So you're sick of that office life, you're just ready to throw in the towel, just pack it all in. I'm gonna move to a little workshop in the forest. I'm gonna live an honest life, making boots by hand. Especially as someone with a channel that's largely about boots, I get messages from people all the time saying, that's it man, it's my last straw, I'm gonna move to the woods, become a boot maker. So I thought I would interview a man who has done exactly that. This is Dave of Old Speed Manufacturing in his workshop in Media, Pennsylvania. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming, Nick.
You quit your job and became a shoemaker. I'm obsessed with that. Also, Daniel Day-Lewis did that for a while. Not everyone knows that. I'm always telling everyone that. Daniel Day-Lewis, he won 1 million Oscars and then he went to Italy and became a shoemaker for like 5 years and then went back to acting.
Another thing on the long list of similarities between me and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Walk me through it. What were you doing before you moved into shoemaking?
So I had done automotive repair, I had done selling crap on eBay, I had done home repair, home improvement, I had done a little leatherworking, tailoring. I also have a bachelor's degree in computer science that I've never ever used. That's not where you start. Don't start there if you're thinking.
But I gotta say, you do have the kind of background that I would have anticipated.
Yes, I work with my hands a lot.
Well, no, not even that. It's quite engineering-y
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Your background, knowing how things fit together, having an understanding of load dispersal and all that kind of stuff. When you told your partner, I think I'm gonna quit my job and be a shoemaker. Was that a dicey conversation? This is an unprofessional question to ask, but I'm sure people will be wondering like, what were the reactions like when you announced your plan?
Part of what made me want to do this as a career is that as soon as I made my first pair of shoes, the reaction from my friends and family was absolutely amazing. Everyone was blown away that I could do that I could make something that looked like a shoe, let alone that you could actually wear and walk around in. And so the support from that was really, really helpful. So when I was like, I want to do this as a career, overwhelmingly the response was, that's amazing and you should do it. And I want to buy a pair. Your mileage may vary, I guess.
That's great. Yeah, maybe it's like that all over. Like, I feel like Pennsylvania, it's a place that's particularly encouraging of entering these sorts of manual trades as well, right? Like, there's a lot more pride in that sort of work than you might find in like Manhattan.
But we're well positioned between a bunch of other major metropolitan areas too, so.
Yeah, and it's also that I'm an American citizen, but I grew up in Australia, and Australians are a lot less encouraging and excited about like starting a new business. Like Americans love that. So
yeah,
that's a good thing. It's like you can say, I'm going to start this weird sounding business, and in Australia they'll be like,
I mean,
that's risky, but like Americans are like, I love it. You're going to succeed. You can do it.
Undoubtedly, you'll have people who are like, don't do that. You're going to ruin your life. You're never going to make any money. And maybe they're right about ruining your life, but you'll probably make some money. And it's not like opening a laundromat or a restaurant or like a print shop or something where you've got to put hundreds of thousands of dollars up front and you've got to like lease some huge space, sign away all your rights, and I don't know, worry about destroying the environment or paying to have waste disposed of or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You need like a garage. If you might already have one. You can do this on your kitchen table. If you want to scale it up, like this garage is like 800 square feet and that's just not that big. And I could do it in a smaller space and produce more boots.
I love that. So how did you go from I'm interested in boot making to being a boot maker?
Well, I knew I had some of the skills from sewing and stuff, but I got into footwear, I guess just out of necessity from being tired of buying crappy shoes or looking at shoes and thinking they were so good and then seeing them in person and thinking, what a piece of crap. And so I made my New Year's resolution in 2023 to make a pair of boots because I thought I probably have the skills to do this. I can get some help. And it took me like 6 months and I finally made a pair. I had some help from a cobbler who had made shoes and that was really pushed me along. I loved it immediately. I was like, this is great. It's so much fun. It's so amazing to start with a sheet of leather and finish with something that really looks like a shoe and I can actually wear it on my feet and use it. So I took a job at the cobbler shop and learned as much as I could.
And you said you took 6 months to learn. Like, what, you get an apprenticeship? You
No,
watched
actually,
videos?
I just taught myself. I watched a ton of YouTube videos. I already knew how to use a sewing machine and stuff, so all that was kind of easy. But I had to read a ton of stuff about drafting a pattern. I had to buy lasts and create a mean form and create the pattern and learn how to make the lasting board and make the counter. And
how did you know that you had to do all this?
Oh, just from reading online and watching videos.
Tell me your resources.
So Arno Shoes blog, that's a great one. Watching Brian the Bootmaker do all this stuff online, that's a great one. Watching cobbler videos, I learned how all of these boots go together and that helped me decide, oh, well, I want to do a hand welted shoe or I want to do stitch down or I want to do, my version of Goodyear welted if I wanted to. A lot of the information is out there now, which is really great.
Yeah, I mean, I know, the internet's been around for a while. When someone can get to where you are without following a designated roadmap. This is me being a real baby boomer here. Like, yeah, but you did a course, right? With like a 101 and a 102 and then a 200.
It probably would have helped, but no, I just kind of taught myself. So if you're not that kind of person, it'd be pretty difficult, I'd say.
What YouTube channels were especially helpful for you?
The Unsung House YouTube channel, Brian the Bootmaker, Terry Kim Shoemaker, Shigeru no Yosui. There's tons of guys out there making incredible shoes online, and they film like the entire process. Especially Nick's boots and White's boots. They show you exactly what they do. You just literally have a window into their shop, and if you watch closely, you can learn so much just from observing.
Yeah, it was really surprising. I went to Indonesia a year or two ago to see some friends, but also while I was there, I was like, I gotta go visit the boot scene because it's a really thriving boot scene there, really high quality handmade boots. And all the boot makers I talked to there, I was like, how did you learn to make like the best boots in the world, arguably? They'd be like, yeah, YouTube, watch some videos. You know, Marcel Massan was one that they talked about a lot.
Absolutely, Marcel's great.
And there's a couple other ones.
How did you learn how to do it?
From YouTube and Cibaduyut, but mostly from YouTube. Marcel Bessan, Lisa Sorrell.
But yeah, they just say we just watch these videos a lot.
Lisa Sorrell.
Lisa Sorrell, that's it, yes.
Her channel is like an encyclopedia
That
of
was
all things boot making.
Yeah. Without them, like a good chunk of Indonesia's boot scene, a good chunk of the boot scene wouldn't exist. So the good news for guys who are fantasizing about leaving everything and making boots, thanks to the internet, a lot easier to do than it was 100 years ago, 50 years ago, when you would have probably had to go find a shoemaker and beg them for an apprenticeship. Like they used to do in all the old short stories.
It used to be a lot easier to find a shoemaker though, to be fair.
Yes, that is true. In the real world, did you have someone else help you out?
Yeah, so
for these early
I got
parts?
super lucky. Literally the first cobbler shop that I called out, I was like, I want to make a pair of boots and I know I'm going to need a little help. And this guy was like, all right, I grew up in a shoe factory, come on over. And so I went to the shop and I basically had access to a guy who had been making sample shoes and production shoes for like 30 years and had made one of everything. So anytime I had a question, I could just go and be like, how do I do this stitch without screwing it up? How do I set up the machine to do this? What do I do about my eyelets? Where do I get my patterns and
turn up
lasts?
at the store and at the cobbler shop.
Literally the first place I went, which my advice from that is go ask. That you will find someone who wants to help you. If you go to a cobbler shop wanting to learn how to make shoes and don't even volunteer to work for free. If you ask them for a job, they will love that. The industry is so hurting for employees, despite the fact that there's an enormous demand. It's a good job. There's tons of money in it. It's just there's all of these cobblers who are getting to be 60, 65, who can't find a replacement. They can't find enough help. There aren't enough young people who want to work with their hands. So instead of passing their business down to their children, who are probably disinterested, they just have to close shop. So if you show up and you're like, I'm willing to work and I have a decent work ethic, I mean, literally that's like the bare minimum and they will love to have you. So do that.
On that note, startup costs. You are interesting for many reasons, but one of them is that here at Old Speed, your boots are all stitched down instead of Goodyear welted. Before we started filming, you told me one of the reasons why you do stitch down instead of Goodyear welting is the machine is way cheaper than a Goodyear welting machine.
Yeah, essentially any outsole stitcher like a Landis 12 or a Rapid E can do a stitch down stitch. You have to buy a little part and then file it down or sand it down or whatever. But you can find these machines all over the country for $700 for a crummy one and like $2,500 for like a real nice clean one. I mean, I paid about $1,000 for mine and it works great. So compare that to a Goodyear welting machine, which if you can even find one is going to be 10 grand. And I can think of like 4 or 5 places in the entire country that uses them. So basically, if you want to make shoes, the scale is like $1 million factory with brand new $50,000 lasting machines and stitching machines and stuff, all the way down to stool to sit on and awl and like a knife and a hammer. So I shot for something that was like, I didn't care if I got kind of crappy machines, but I knew I didn't want to hand welt. I couldn't afford a Goodyear welted machine. I just wanted to take the parts of the process that are really tedious and use the available machines that are affordable to speed them up. And I think that the quality that something like a Landis stitcher offers is enormous. It does a beautiful, excellent stitch and better looking than I could do by hand, and it takes no time at all. So,
and it's only $1,000.
Yeah, if I was starting from from actually nothing, I would probably want to have $15,000 or something. But I didn't start with that much money. I started with a cobbler shop where I knew I could use a bunch of the tools. And so if you do that, you can start with $5,000. You can get a whole round of lasts, you can get your patterns, you can get a bunch of leather to start with and soles and all the materials you could possibly need and do a lot of it by hand and then borrow the machines from the cobbler. So I highly recommend doing that. Like get help and start with, I mean, it's a lot less money than like trying to open a restaurant.
Like what machines did you have to buy?
All right, so assuming you don't have help from a cobbler shop and you need to buy buy everything. You're going to want belt sanding machine or a line finisher, which is going to have the sanding stuff that you need to sand the edge of the sole and the heel, and then stuff to really finely sand it or shape it, and then polishing stuff to give it that glossy finish. You're going to need a bunch of hand tools like lasting pliers, hammer, like a shoemaker's hammer, nails, punches, that kind of thing. These are all very affordable compared to some of the more expensive stuff. The most expensive machine in here by far is the outsole stitcher, which is $1,000. The sewing machine, you'll want a post-bed sewing machine, which can be found used or new. Used, they're probably like $800, new, probably $1,800. But you really only need the one, and it'll last you a really long time, and it'll hold its resale value if you're not really sold on shoemaking. You're gonna need like a skiving knife and a bunch of other sharpening stuff, but all of that's pretty cheap. If you get really lucky like me, and you live in like a major metropolitan area, I got this 3,000 pound clicker press for $250. And if I had the dies, which I'm planning to get, it would reduce the time for clicking a pair out from 45 minutes to like 1.5 minutes. A lot of these things are available, but generally the main stuff you need are the sander and finisher, a sewing machine, and ideally the outsole stitcher.
You said get your last, get your patterns. Where do you get these things from? Are you buying other people's designs? Where are they?
No, so the way I did it was I bought lasts and then I customized them. So I was sanding off parts here and adding leather there to create the exact shape that I wanted. And then what you do is you can mail that to a last factory. And there are a few of these in Leon, Mexico. If you're in North America, that's where I would go. There's a bunch in Ukraine as well if you're in Europe. And they will create a digitized version of the last. And then you can get your pattern information from that and send it to a pattern person. I created the pattern by hand and sent that to a pattern guy who then kind of like refined and superimposed it on the digital version of the last for me. So that gave me a ton of control over how the final product would look and was very helpful. All of these things cost money, but I think my run of lasts was $2,500 for 38 pairs plus shipping. And the patterning was a few $100s. It wasn't very expensive to get up and running essentially.
What's something that surprised you once you got going? Something that you might tell someone who's thinking about going into it, like, here's one thing I didn't anticipate.
The community is really great. And I don't just mean people who want to buy the boots. Everywhere I've ever gone to ask for help, I've gotten help. Whether it's shooting an email to Lisa Sorrell, who's like the premier cowboy bootmaker in the country, and getting a response that's totally helpful, or just like posting online like, hey, what kind of eyelet press do I use for this thing? Like, I'm totally lost about this. There's 5,000 options and I don't know what to do. You get a ton of help, and people are just so willing to help what could be conceived as their direct competitors. But I think that the space, it used to be that way, that everyone was worried about competition. And now it's like the industry is nearly fully dead in this country, and anything we can do to keep it alive and running is helpful. So I'm really glad that that's shifted.
Where do you ask? Is it like a subreddit, or are you talking like Stitch Down Discord, or?
Stitch Down Discord's great. There's a ton of great makers on there. I mean, guys who don't do this professionally, who are just like so much better at it than me and have so much information. It makes me feel like a total fake, but it is such a great resource, and they're so friendly and helpful. Another place is One and All, which is like the shoemaking forum. And then even like go to Lisa Sorrell's YouTube channel and just like ask a question in the comments if you're not sure. Or go on Instagram and DM Marcel Mersan or Lisa Sorrell, or anybody. People are very willing to help. It's really amazing.
That's really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of heroes in this space, I think. The amount of people that are like, yeah, man, Lisa Sorrell, Marcel Mersan, they really helped me out. But also these websites, Ben at Stitch Down for making the Discord.
Yeah. I think it's totally fair to say that without Lisa Sorrell, I don't know if like none of this would be happening, but she is nearly on her own propping up the entire like handmade shoe industry in this country. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The kind of information that she has given away, the volume of information, the things that she imports from other countries to sell that you could never get if not for her store. The list is enormous. She is a hero in this industry.
And I also think that you yourself having this brand here as well, you're doing your own part helping to perpetuate the industry.
Yeah.
And hopefully this video might be able to help to perpetuate it a bit more and inspire maybe even one more person to get started with this and carry on the lineage, and that'll make it worth it.
I really hope so. In general, the help that I get from my peers, and also the enthusiasm from people who come to buy boots. They absolutely love that they can get something that's made here. They know the person who made it. They know that it's ethical. They really care about the quality of the product and are just so happy to have something that they, when asked about, they can say, yeah, I know where that boot came from. It's not just made in America. It's made in Rose Valley, Pennsylvania by a guy named Dave. The reason I started this beyond enjoying making boots was that I wanted to provide an option to people who were perplexed by the endless number of crap shoes and didn't know what they were going to get, and wanted to buy something that they knew the origin of, that they could trust the quality of. I just wanted to be like, here is one place where you can go to get exactly that.
Old Speed Manufacturing make resellable, durable, versatile boots here in Pennsylvania. The website's in the description below, and so is the Instagram account of Dave. Thank you very much for having us in the workshop.
Thanks so much for coming, Nick.